Oh, hi. Good morning and welcome to Defense Diaries. So I screwed up the time. Massive miscalculation on Mountain Time. Had this scheduled for 11:30. I sat down on my ball. I'm like, oh, let's go. Saw the time was set for 11. I'm like, oh, there's two people in here. Oopsies. Wow. I mean, tech wizardry. Good morning, beautiful humans. I am your host, Bob Mata, and this is Defense Diaries. And today, we are covering the potential plea of Bryan Kohberger for the 4 brutal homicides that took place in Idaho a few years ago. So it's going to be an interesting day in a lot of different ways. Allie will be joining me. What's up, Will? Good to see you, my man, my brother. So this is going to be interesting. Allie will be on momentarily. She's taking care of a few things. She was up bright and early today. I was all like, we were all camped in the room. Oh, there she is. Well, he hasn't pled yet. We're going to talk about that. Oh, so beautiful and brilliant. Hi.
Hey, babe.
You've got a good tan. When did you get all that color?
I think it's that we were like out at the sun one day. I think it's the lighting.
Yeah, my wife has beautiful olive skin, so her and Scout get very, very, very dark and glorious in the summer. It takes me, I get red first and then I get tan.
I look really tired. Now I'm looking at myself. All right, let's just move on.
Hey, well, are you on Ethernet? You don't seem like you are.
I am.
You are?
Yeah, the question is the Wi-Fi off. Yeah, Wi-Fi's off, Ethernet's on.
Okay. I mean, you should be good. It was a little bit clunky there. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about. All right, so the way these things work, right? Like we've had cases, and there's some interesting concepts I started thinking about last night. Now, prior to the word on the street getting out that there had been a plea agreement between the state and Kohberger, we were planning on doing a live, and I was going to be going over Judge Hippler's most recent rulings, which significantly were to deny a continuance request from the defense. And also it was shutting down their ability to bring in the
third party
right
culprits.
So
it's strange because it was a bad week for the defense, yet the state decided to make this offer.
Yeah.
And, I did hear what I think it was Mr. Gonzalez?
Oh, Steve Gonzalez.
That's
Kaylee's dad.
Kaylee's dad. Say that he thought that the judge had said that there was going to be this either internal investigation or independent investigation. I'm assuming that would be into the leak. I get the sense that he thinks that the state did this to get out of this case quick, so there was no more peering eyes into what went on in that office. I mean, it's very clearly what he thinks.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of things to think about it, because when I started thinking about the continuance request by the defense, I was like, well, it's strange, because typically, when you're talking to your clients about potentially entering into a plea agreement, if the state is agreeable to making an offer. I mean, sometimes the state simply doesn't make an offer. It's not a foregone conclusion that the state's always going to offer a plea agreement or a plea deal. But I don't know at the time, his trial was bearing down, right? I mean, they were going to start picking the jury here. They were going to have the 3 days of sealed hearings, and then I think they were going to start selecting the jury August 4, and then the trial was going to start August 18. Was what the schedule was. So, I'm sitting there to myself and I'm thinking, well, it's kind of interesting that Ann Taylor would have been requesting the continuance, which speaks to either the fact that the state hadn't made the offer at that point, right? Because I mean, if that offer's on the table and you're having the discussions with your client and he's contemplating it, I mean, maybe you're asking for a continuance for twofold. One, so you can continue to prepare as the attorney, but two, if there was an offer on the table at that point in time when she wrote up the motion to continue, maybe she's trying to give Kohberger time to think on the offer.
Yeah, but they had till the end of July, right? Trial's going to start.
Yeah, well, trial was going to start August 18th, but jury selection was going to start the 4th, and then they were going to have that.
Oh, the 4th.
What?
Of August.
Were you not listening when I literally?
Sorry, I was looking at the victim's rights statute.
All right, there's an excellent example of how Allie can just block my ass out. It's a real skill.
Well, so I do just want to let people know, under the victim's rights statute in Idaho, the family members have the right, if they choose to or request to speak at this hearing.
Oh, and I'm sure they will.
I mean, based on what they have said publicly thus far, it would seem that they would.
Yeah, no,
I guess you'll see if maybe their position has changed. Geez, the more I look at myself, the more I want to go do some makeup. Let's get the screen up so that I'm smaller.
You look absolutely gorgeous. No, you really do. You do not need an ounce of makeup ever. You know that.
All right. Sorry, I should just kept it to myself. So,
yeah, because you're gonna get the "you look beautiful"
right,
coming like pouring in.
Like
but
I'm
you
50.
do. You're
okay. Thank you.
You're
all right.
Naturally beautiful. Let's all just talk about how gorgeous my wife is. All right. Massively outkicked my coverage.
So let's talk about what we're going to hear from Kohberger tonight. He cannot stand silent. He cannot enter what's called an Alford plea and say, I'm not admitting guilt, but I want to plead guilty anyway. That's never going to happen. I did look at the plea statute, for conditional pleas, which I think in Alford is sort of a conditional plea, but technically conditional pleas deal with those certain conditions where you're actually able to retain some appellate rights. It has to be approved, recommended by the state, and approved by the court. So none of that is happening. If he intends to plead guilty, as he has indicated, he's going to have to accept responsibility for what he did. Now, this doesn't mean why did you do it? I as much as I would love
or him giving the details of how it all went down, which is like what people want to hear, right? I mean, people want to know how this thing went down. You know what I'm saying?
There might be some details about how.
Well, I think we know we're going to get the factual basis from the state. So you know, I mean, the state has to give a factual basis on the record in terms of they're going to say this is what we would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. And I'm thinking that this is going to be a little more thorough than sometimes we will see. I think that they will put out a lot of the things that they intended on bringing at trial. Maybe
I
we'll hear some facts that we aren't
wouldn't
aware of.
otherwise hear. I have to agree. So let's tell the people what your typical everyday run of the mill guilty plea, factual basis type of thing concerns. So let's just say that it was, a theft in a Walmart. So Robert Mata entered the Walmart with the intent to deprive, you know, uh, take property without paying. He entered on this day and he left with a lipstick. All, you know, all this would be established at trial. They just put the elements of the offense and that's it. But as Bob's saying, I think in this case, especially because of, community public interest, not only that it's high profile and the world wants to know, but their community, their citizens, they want to know.
Yeah.
They want people whose kids go to that college. They want to be safe. They want to know as much as they can about the what and the why, So I do think that we'll get some
I wonder,
more facts.
like, I think I saw a story because I was curious when this went down, whether or not it was going to affect admissions at University of Idaho. I thought that I read that it had not really affected it. You know, I mean, obviously, if you have a kid that's going to that school and this happens, you're freaking out,
Well,
right?
before they catch the guy, you're definitely
Well, I mean, there was a gap.
right.
I mean, it's not like an arrest happened within days. I mean, a lot of time passed to where, when they brought the kids back to the school, you got to be on high alert, right? I mean, you got to be like, but I don't want to get into the weeds on that. So, like, I just want to flat out say, until he pleads, till he actually pleads today, I mean, this dude could walk it back. I mean, there is nothing that's stopping him from walking it back until he actually. And I was
If he
talking about it with Allie last night. I'm like, he's had a couple of days to think on it, because and it's like we know in these situations where we get an offer and we go to our clients and we're saying, all right, this is what the offer is, and we'll have some conversations with the state. They're always trying to like, hey, we
it's
want
a
them to
gag,
plead out today, right
right?
now, because
Because
they don't want our defendant changing their mind.
right.
And we're like, well, they've got to make arrangements if they're going in for X amount of years.
So
They
then
got family.
sometimes, like in that, they'll let him plea and
Yeah,
come back for sentencing.
yeah,
Like over the weekend, the next day. But they want them locked in, like Bob's saying. They
yeah.
don't want them
So
changing their mind.
like Kohberger's had a couple days, like where post saying I'm agreeing to plead guilty. I'm not talking about all the time leading up to that because it becomes a different mindset as the defendant when you said, all right, I'm going to plead out to this. Okay. And now he's had 2 days to kind of stew on it in his cell with nothing else to do other than think. It's going to be an interesting day. It's
Can
going to
you
be
do me a favor and make sure you have the right link? Because when I checked the email, I didn't
So I
think we
think
had.
Law and Crime is going to stream it, but do you want me to? Would you prefer that I do it through the Zoom link?
I
I've got the Law and Crime
I
up.
thought there was. I thought that the information we got was that it was the AP was the main feed, and then
All right,
that link got us to share their feed. But as long as you have it, it doesn't matter
all
to
right.
me.
Here, I'm gonna pull
You
up
check
Bill.
and I'll read.
Okay.
Will Newman, Jughead Jones. I wonder if he talked to his family before asking for a plea. At least from what I'm hearing on the news, his family hasn't been to Idaho and has not seen him since he was in court in Pennsylvania. Um, I would suspect that he's talking to his family, but your guess would be as good as mine. I don't know, if they're supporting him. I can say if my child, I'm just going to say, was in some sort of criminal issue, I'm not going to say slaughtered 4 people because that's ridiculous. Um, I'd take my ass from Pennsylvania to Idaho and visit my kid. I mean, um, so I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. What kind of, if his family is there, I don't know. They would even have time. So who knows if he spoke to them or not. Atheist aunt, did Bob take Midol or is the AC fixed? The AC is not fixed, but there is a portable one in our room, so it's cooling down. It's cooling down.
Yeah, it's like once we had it running for like 24 hours straight, like we have a couple comfortable rooms. Like the worst part is we have no idea. Like the part that we need's on back order. And I mean, he gave me no time frame. Like, I'm like, are we talking like a month here, bro? Or do we have to go rent an Airbnb? Because it has
Right.
been oppressively hot, like all over the country. But I mean, it's been 95 and humid, or 90, somewhere in between 95 and 100 and humid every day for like 2 weeks. It's been brutal.
So
My own fault. It's my own fault. I did not clean off the outside of the condenser, and it was like caked with shit. It was bad maintenance by me. I have to take the full blame. Had to take the full blame.
you're a busy man,
Yeah, I
babe.
heard what you were saying, babe. I got it up. I'm gonna pull it. We're just gonna take it directly
Too
from
bad
the
there's
court's
not
feed.
OnlyFans.
We're gonna take it directly from the court's feed because they're gonna run it. So we'll throw it up here just so y'all see that we're where we need to be for when this thing goes down. So to answer your question, I heard what you were inquiring about. I saw a story that Kohberger's family is going to be in attendance.
Okay.
So I saw that. Doesn't mean it's 100%. It's, some
Right.
kind of MSM source, but
I just want to double check the rules. There's nothing that prevents us from sharing. This is the stream we're supposed to, like, it's the one that they gave us with
yeah,
the
no, this is their YouTube channel, babe. So it's
okay.
definitely, it's like
Okay.
we're in. They got 670 waiting, 691. So
Okay.
this is where it's going to happen.
And then for those of you that don't know, I'm assuming most of the people here also followed Karen Reed. The reason I said too bad we don't have OnlyFans is because when we'd be waiting for the court to actually start, they would always have the camera at the ceiling fan in the courtroom. So that was our little security blanket for that trial. So I would expect that there's going to be, so what are some of the reasons that a judge won't accept a guilty plea? And can a judge not accept the guilty plea, but not accept the sentence that has been agreed to and suggested and recommended by the state? Now, in your typical situation, because I've never had to really think about this in a strict death penalty versus not death penalty on the table. We've never had someone um, looking at the death penalty who said, I want to plead and take life. So in your typical situation, the judge does not have to accept the sentence. I'm just going to say 99% of the time they do. But if it's too, I almost had a judge once be like, what? Wait a minute here. And then I could tell from his reaction that I needed to step up my like mitigation argument, even just in like what's typically a pro forma sort of discussion. And then the judge accepts the agreement between the prosecution and the state. So the judge could see why my client was getting what he thought was a way too good of a deal. So typically the judge will warn someone before they enter their plea. You understand that I can accept your plea and not and I can sentence you to whatever I want. I do not have to go with the agreed sentence that you and the prosecution have come up with. So people know that going in, although they're told by their lawyers, like, don't worry, the judge, this is it, and it's going to go through. But sometimes it doesn't. In this situation, I do not think that the judge, I do not think that he could, but I surely know he feel that he would
Well,
not.
he would not be, so if it's life without the possibility on all four. So, like, I mean, he can't sentence him to death.
Right. He can't
So
say I'm gonna, because it's not a judge's
right.
decision. So
So, Renee said, "I'm hearing the feds may charge him with the death penalty." I don't.
who's
I,
saying that?
just one of our chatters. I read
So
that on Twitter, Renee.
did he come from did he technically
Yeah, came from
is
Washington.
no,
Yeah,
no, no. The college is in Washington?
yes. Well, no, the college is in Idaho. He went to Washington State University. He drove from Washington that night, allegedly, under under the cover of darkness from Washington to Idaho. They're
That's
right
not
on the border.
that's not gonna happen. In my opinion, that's not gonna
I
happen.
agree.
That is not what the feds are in the business of doing. Like, someone's been convicted and pled guilty to murder.
And gotten, life without the possibilities. He's done, and now they're not just like the feds are not going to be in the business of, oh, we want to kill this guy, so we're going to charge him ourselves.
Right. And I mean, think about Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell.
Well, Chad got the death penalty.
Oh, so Lori Vallow.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was I saying before that? So in some situations, a judge can do that. In this situation, it's not one of them. The judge doesn't have the authority to sentence him to death. The only situation where the judge is not going to accept a plea is if Bryan stands up there and tries to stand silent. He hems and haws, tries to deny responsibility. He's not, admitting it. He says something that makes it seem like he doesn't really want to enter a plea, or he thinks he can still appeal, or, and I've had situations where clients have sort of hemmed and hawed or tried to say, well, I didn't do this, but I'll plead anyway. And the judge is like, yeah, we need to take a break.
Yeah. If the defendant's like being weird at all about it and like just not flat out accepting the plea deal and saying I'm pleading guilty, then yeah, the judge will typically take a break. I mean, we had a client. Frankly, it was right when we moved back to Illinois from Pennsylvania, where we had been practicing. And one of our first trials in our new county out here, our client, and it was a reverse buy drug deal, wherein that means that the cops were setting them up. So the cops they had undercovers playing like they were, guys that were either wanting to buy or sell a large amount of drugs. Our guy was accused of being the lookout. And so it was a sting operation. They had it all on camera. Like, the whole thing was filmed. And our guy was adamant that he had withdrawn from the conspiracy. So, but at any rate, they were making, our client's wife was pregnant at the time. So they made an offer, I think, of 8 years, if I'm remembering correctly, right, babe?
It was something like that.
And with like, it was a big number for his alleged involvement in the crime. And so it was one of those things where we worked out a weekend, because he was of the mindset that he was going to take it, because the downside if we went to trial in terms of sentencing was twice that. I think it was 16. Like, he could have gotten, if we would have gone to trial and lost, it would have doubled his time potentially in terms of a potential sentence. So he takes the weekend, wherein we all kind of left, where he's like, I'm going to take the deal. And we said, well, take the weekend to think about it, talk with your family, see what you want to do. And remember, we're sitting there, Allie and I, with a reverse buy situation and everything on video. So we're like, they have some powerful evidence. We thought we had a pretty solid case for a withdrawal from the conspiracy, but it was going to be a matter of, was the jury going to believe it in terms of what his intent was? And so ultimately we come back that Monday, right? I think it was the weekend. We come back Monday and he's like, fuck it. I want to go.
Well, and I think we had recommended, our feelings had kind of changed too, and we thought we had a strong that we could potentially win. So
yeah, because we met with the family, we talked it through that weekend. I think we had them all over to the house.
Yeah, we were doing some, but we were also doing some. We were continuing our investigation, prepping for trial, and felt stronger. Anyway, we won.
We did. That was the first client. Like when they were reading the verdict, it was Allie was to my left and our client was to my right. I was in the middle. And it's that moment in time when they're reading the verdict and I think it was like a 2-week trial. It was rather lengthy. Lot of heavy duty cop cross examinations in that case. So at any rate, they come back and as soon as they read the not guilty verdict, my client's nose just explodes and starts bleeding. Like his heart was going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's like that, what I'm always talking about, like that moment in time, like that lull between you getting the call as the attorneys and you going back to the courtroom. Like I posted that thing with David Yannetti on my Twitter and I think on Insta or whatever, but there's no talking. It's just David's face as he's hearing them read through the counts and what the verdicts are. And it was so emblematic of exactly that moment in time. It was like, and I kind of cut off where he really started crying, but you could see I cut it off like right before he started, not for any reason in particular, but I just thought it was such a powerful video in terms of showing just how deeply this affects us as attorneys, these cases and our clients. And we have a different relationship in the criminal justice system with the law and our clients than the prosecution does. They never deal with the human being side of it from the defendant side. Obviously they deal with the victims' families. How much is questionable, as we see here in Kohberger. They're not very happy. The families felt that they weren't consulted enough. I think we're going to hear about that. Assuming that we're going to hear from Steve Gonzalez is going to hold no holds bar. He's going to fire. Like that guy is going to he's going to say what he feels, doesn't give a shit, and he's going to let it all hang out. And I have a feeling that he will be audibly chastising the state for their decision to do this he's going to be giving Kohberger the business, but I think he's also going to be giving the state the business as well, because he's not happy. So, but we get to know the families of the defendant. We obviously get to know the defendant. It's a very different relationship in the system than prosecutors. I mean, they're kind of like in their ivory hat or ivory tower, white hat world, wherein they're not down in the muck, so to speak. Whereas we just see the other side of it. We just see the human side of it a lot more in much greater detail and much more up close than the prosecution. They're seeing a file, a name, and that's about it. Like 95% of the time they've had zero opportunity to ever speak to the defendant, and nor would they have any reason to, unless it was something that, kind of built up prior to an arrest where, they were trying to squeeze this guy for something. And I mean, there's very limited circumstances and when the prosecutor is going to be able to have any kind of conversations with the defendant, especially we're killing time.
I was going to say, keep like just double check some other feeds and make sure something doesn't.
This is the court's feed.
I know. I'm just,
No.
All right. Show your 33rd. Show your 33rd. Why can't I do that?
What? Can't do what?
Read her handle.
Oh, it's show your teeth. She's just being cute with the threes.
Right. Okay. Jeez.
She wants you to smile, babe. Smile.
Got it. I was at the bar last night. The bartender says, "So how's your court cases?" I'm in accounting. People literally know me for my law rants. That's awesome.
That is awesome. They think you're a lawyer too. So
Wait, babe, we have another hour.
what?
Yeah. It's 11
What?
o'clock our time right now. What did you do?
I thought it was supposed to be at
11 o'clock mountain time.
oh God, I fucked it up all over the place. I
Well,
did
now
have
you
it
gotta
set at the
kill a
right
fucking
time.
hour with these people. You
I
got
had it set at the
2,500
right
here.
time. You were late. I had it set at 11:30.
How was
And
I
then I'm
late? What
like,
the hell are you talking about? How's this turning on me?
no, I
No.
fucked it up. You didn't
Oh,
do
okay.
anything. No, I did. Like when I set it last night, I set it for 11:30. I thought the hearing was at 11 a.m. Mountain Time.
It is.
Oh yeah, I fucked up. See, I had it set and then I overthought it. All right. Well, one
No,
thing
you have to kill time for another hour because you got 2,500 people here and
yeah, no, I'm not trying to end this thing. All
I
right.
am.
Well, it's not like we yeah, I can tell. I can
I
tell.
was like, you gotta entertain these
Oh,
people,
I
but
I
no,
can sense it, babe.
we should just we should just port them over an hour.
Yeah, no, we've got 57
What the hell are
minutes.
you gonna say for 57 minutes? You know what?
Well, I mean, there
Pull
was
up
kind
some
of
of
a
the
big verdict in the Diddy case.
yeah.
We could definitely talk about that a little bit.
All right, well,
So if
pull
you
it up,
haven't heard, yeah, I'll pull it up
like
somewhere.
some little video clip of it.
All right, let me find something. So if you guys have not heard, Sean Combs was found not guilty on the top charges, so the racketeering and the sex trafficking charges. He was found not guilty, and he was only found guilty on the transporting to engage in prostitution charges, which I think carry a maximum of 10 years. But so I mean, racketeering cases are hard, y'all. They just are. I was like,
I didn't think the jury was out that long, were they? You know what? I take it back. Don't pull up a video about that. Bring us something like one of the family members being interviewed. Um, there's a on YouTube, I think on News Nation, there's a small the clip of just the family member being interviewed, or if not, I can get to it because it's like in the middle of the
all right, here you find it. I was gonna pull up the Times, and I'm a print guy. I like reading the papers.
yeah,
The
but
papers.
we're on a video thing right now, so I feel like, you know,
All right, well, you dig it. So
I
here's
got
what
it.
we'll
I got
do.
it.
All right, cool. Can I pull up this Times thing?
About Diddy, if you wanna yeah, because 'cause we're not gonna go back to Diddy after I move on to Kohberger.
Okay. All right, let me pull the dids up. Did he do it? I think he did, but he got off. All right. So here it is from the Times, New York Times. And it's weird. This is such a huge case, and it got like zero publicity because they don't stream it. We live in a world where we want to see the shit happen. You know what I mean? It's like we want to see the shit. It's like the days of trying cases in the dark of great interest should be over. And New York is adamant about not allowing cameras in the courtroom, state or federal. All right, so here's the latest. Sean Combs was acquitted on Wednesday of sex trafficking and the racketeering charges, but convicted of transporting to engage in prostitution after an 8-week federal trial. You know how much money they dumped into this case? I'm talking about the government. Woo. Wow. A jury in Manhattan found Mr. Combs 55 not guilty of the most serious charges against him. Prosecutors had accused the famed producer of coercing 2 former girlfriends, Cassandra Ventura and a woman who testified pseudonymously. How would you say pseudonym? Pseudonymously. 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 I've
By
never
pseudonym.
seen it. I've never
By
seen it.
pseudonym.
Right. As Jane. But I've never seen that word used that way, which is weird because I'm a wordsmith. As Jane into unwanted sex with male prostitutes aided by a team of pliant employees. So said outside the courthouse on Worth Street following the verdict, throngs of people watched as Sean Combs' family members exited. There was yelling, some in apparent glee, others in consternation.
Glee? Some people are in glee over this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's got family and friends that were happy.
Well, yeah, but that sounds like a crowd of gleers.
A lot of gleers. What is this giant ad and how do I get rid of it? Two members of the public got into a shouting match about the trial. One was pleased, the other dismayed. Okay, so she's reaching for many content creators, continued live streaming the commotion. All right. Kay says the defense is expected to speak to the media outside the courthouse later today. They still have an important legal battle ahead this afternoon when a judge will decide whether Sean Combs will be released from detention pending sentencing. Interesting.
This is fet. I doubt it, but I don't know.
So 31 minutes ago, in a statement in response to the verdict, Jay Clayton, interim U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, which prosecuted the case, said, sex crimes deeply scar victims, and the disturbing reality is that sex crimes are all too present in many aspects of our society. Victims endure gut-wrenching physical and mental abuse, leading to lasting trauma. New Yorkers and all Americans want this scourge stopped and perpetrators brought to justice. Prosecuting sex crimes requires brave victims to come forward and tell their harrowing stories. We and our law enforcement partners recognize the hardship victims endure and have prioritized a victim-centered approach to investigating and prosecuting these cases. Ricky Patel, special agent in charge of the New York Field Office of Homeland Security Investigations, which investigated the case, also signed the statement. So here it just says Combs was supported by his family in the courtroom. He's the money guy.
They were jubilant.
They were jubilant.
All right. So
I mean, make no bones about it. It's a huge win. It's a huge win. I mean, the biggest, like we're talking.
At least he'll be doing some time because we saw what he did to his girlfriend, dragging her into, back into the beating her, dragging her back in to take part in it. So, all right, here we've got the victim's father reacts to
with our friend Ashley Banfield. She's
Yep.
been over here a couple times, hanging with us.
Tell you how sorry I was because I know how this is landing. At least I think I do. But I wanted you to have your say. I wanted you to be able to say out loud for everyone to hear what this means to you and your family.
This is anything but justice. This is the opposite of our will. There was no majority believing that this was acceptable. I want to honor all the police officers, the FBI, and all the people that work their tail off. The failure is at the court level, 100%. But the men in the boots on the ground and the women that were out there working, I want to honor everything that they did for our children, 100%. The fault is in leadership and the people that you place this evidence upon. They were weak. They decided to play God and decide what this man's decision should be, and not a jury, not a peers, not his peers. They, so that's where we are today.
Walk me through what happened. Brian Enton, did some really great reporting at the top of this show here, but tell me from your perspective how the last 3 days have played out.
I would say ever since Hitler has demanded an independent investigation, they couldn't get away from this case fast enough. They've done everything to make this case go away. So I don't know what that entails, but he said he was going to have an independent investigator, and all of a sudden we seemed like we were on rails to get rid of this case and make a plea deal. I mean, he's guilty. We all know he's guilty. There's more than enough evidence, but it's tough. It's tough to put a community through this, and it could be bad for reputations and business identities, and there's fallout. But this isn't the will of the victims. This is just one person making a decision, and it doesn't reflect what we were asking for.
Steve, did anybody ever call you from the prosecutor's office to just personally discuss this with you? Did anybody offer to meet with you in person to go over this potential plan?
We have meetings all the time on particularly a lot of times on Friday. No. We had this regular meeting that we have to try basically do an update of what's going on, where things are at, because
I mean, that's a fucking outrage. That shocks me, surprises me. I cannot believe that that's really what happened. So they have a regular meeting on Friday, no discussion about it. They don't ask for their input before they do this. They just kind of let them know.
Yeah, I mean, just to be clear, the prosecutors have no obligation, and the victims' families do not decide what the state's going to offer. Now,
but the victims' rights statute, they're supposed to communicate with them. They're supposed to give them notice and discuss it with them. They don't have a veto power or anything like that.
The human thing to do. That's the thing that you are, if you're a human being that's got empathy and like, it's disturbing that they would have done that.
That's why what he's mentioning here, you know, I don't know. I don't know. It's just,
well, let me ask you this. How would, and what Steve is talking about is obviously the leak situation that happened with Dateline, and Hippler put it on both the prosecutor's office and law enforcement. I thought the judge had only given them a very short time frame.
Right. I thought they turned the stuff over already. So I just don't know that that's really
right. Because that's what I mean. Like, and how would that have impacted? Like, if he's going to, like, I don't think that goes away in Hippler's mind.
I don't necessarily think so either.
You know, and I don't think that would have impacted the trial. Like, I don't see how them leaking information, like what he ruled on it thoroughly. Like, he wrote a very long memorandum in terms of, and that was one of the defense's points in terms of asking for a continuance because of the leak, because that information got out, tainted the jury pool to the extent where they needed time to let the dust settle, all that shit. So Hippler was like, nah. I hear you. It's not gonna, like, I'm not granting it on that basis. So, like, I don't see a way in which that would have impacted the trial proper. Like, I don't, like, nothing was going to happen evidentiary wise in terms of like, because if he was gonna,
or been so detrimental to the prosecuting attorney's office that there's something the judge is going to find out that they need to rush and plead out real quick.
Right, but that's a different thing. Like, if there's something that they're really trying to hide.
But you would think, like, that's the case, you would almost not be, you'd be even more sure to, like, talk to the families and make sure everybody's copacetic. And it's just, it's very strange. It's very disrespectful to the family. I feel for them because this is not what they want. And that's part of, like, what a plea deal is supposed to do, is bring the family's peace. And it's a shame that this isn't, because from an outside perspective, you would hope that it would, because it brings a conclusion to things. It takes the risk out that there's going to be, you know, that somehow, some way he wouldn't be found guilty. There'd be a hung jury, the years of appeals, you know, all of those things. But this family's very upset about it. And, well, let's hear the rest of what he says. And I don't know, Distracted Therapist was suggesting maybe the Walsh hearing with Bukaki. I don't know if that's Buchanan.
Well, I actually want to cover that. That was what I was talking to you about yesterday, babe.
Right.
It's a suppression hearing. Mel's been covering it, but I think it's lengthy.
Did you get an email? You should check your email. Jonah says, what, if any, appeals are available when one pleads guilty? None. You lose all your appellate rights. There could be, you know, something in there that, you weren't advised of your rights correctly. The judge didn't warn you of certain things beforehand, technical things like that. Your lawyer straight up lied to you um to get you to plead guilty, something extreme like that. But generally speaking, you waive all of your appellate issues. For example, you can't come back and say, well, he only pled guilty because the judge refused to grant a continuance and his lawyer said she wasn't ready to go to trial. And then Michael Osbrook says, as I said yesterday, prosecutors are not emotional support animals.
No, they are not.
And Michael's taking it not clinical, what would be the word, approach to the law, the cold approach to the law. The prosecutor has their job and they're not emotional support animals for victims, but they need to be sometimes to a certain extent.
Well, that's typically why they have victims advocates that are in the court. And that's typically who deals
Right.
with.
Those are your emotional support animals, I guess,
Right.
but they still need to be communicating with the family. I mean, we saw it happen in what's his name, where they reversed with the withdrawal of the charges, the dismissal of the case because the victim's family wasn't given enough time to get there and speak.
Yeah. Adnan Syed.
Right. I mean, here, I'm assuming that they're going to be there and have a chance to speak, but
that, in that particular situation, which obviously took place in Baltimore County in Maryland, if you guys don't know what happened with Syed, it's like that prosecutor, Marilyn Mosby, in that case, after all these years, had decided to, because they had just passed a new statute in Maryland a few years prior that had been born out of that gun trace task force, because many states don't have a statute wherein the state can come in and say, okay, look, we fucked this one up.
Right. It addresses wrongful convictions.
Right. But what they had done is she had filed, a petition to overturn his conviction and make the case go away. And they didn't give Haley's family, her brother was the advocate for the family. He lived out in California, kind of the same shit that was going on here with the families. They weren't really giving them any notice at all. They kind of like sent a couple of emails like, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing, filing this paperwork where, we're going to ask the judge to undo the conviction. And
there, he didn't get a chance to appear.
He's like, I want to be able to be there. Like, will you give me 7 days? Like, I've got to make arrangements. I've got to make arrangements to work, travel, all that stuff. But I want to be out there. And Allie and I, when we covered that, I'm like, man, if I'm Syed's attorneys, I'm like, dude, you've been in here I'm like, why do we want to do anything that could potentially fuck this up? This is like a gift that, and whatever Mosby's rationale behind it matters not to Syed.
Right. They gave him Zoom access. They were, the court reversed it because they didn't give the victim's family the ability.
And then what happened, which we predicted, which was worst case scenario. And it was going to be that in a world in which Mosby's out of office because she was convicted of some federal stuff related to fraud and COVID, and a new DA was coming in. And like Allie and I were like, well, if this new DA isn't of the mindset that he thinks that the conviction should be reversed, like Syed's in a potentially in a world of shit. Like that means, so the appellate court came back in that case and they're like, no, that hearing you did was a sham. You need to have an actual hearing wherein witnesses testify, they're cross-examined. We want to see why you're reversing this or asking that the conviction be reversed. And so that was the ruling of the appellate court. Thing got appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And ultimately, exactly what we thought could happen did happen. And the new DA is like, nah. It's like,
I'm not
I don't
doing it.
think any of this is, I'm not doing any of it. Now he ended up getting resentenced under a newer act in terms of, because he was sentenced as a juvenile, and they ended up giving him time served. But it's the difference where he is a convicted murderer out on the streets now and always will be, as opposed to not being that, had they just given the family the 7 days time to make it to court. Like if both the attorneys, the prosecution, and the defense was saying to the judge, let's give him 7 days to get here.
Right. That's
Like,
what they definitely should have done.
That's
All
what-
right.
yeah.
So call me Jeeves says, glad to be here today for this hearing with you. It's dinner time in Germany right now. This
Hey,
deal is smashing my plans for summer break evenings, though.
how's the weather out there in Germany? Cameron was telling me it was 115 degrees in London. Is that true?
Yeah, I said in the UK it was 115 degrees.
Oh, that was you telling me the whole Fahrenheit and Celsius calculation thing. I thought it was Cam.
See, it's not Gonzalez or it's Gonzalez. All right, I'm rewinding it so that we can hear how he said it.
Yeah, I don't call him Gonclaves or Gonzalez.
I said it wrong.
Gonsalves. Yeah, I think I say it right. Like when we were first covering this case, I was butchering that name. So I kept like trying to find clips of Steve to figure out how to pronounce it.
A backbreakingly long day for you, so thank you.
Thanks, Ash.
I want to bring in Steve Gonzalez. He is the father of Kaylee Gonzalez. His attorney is Shannon Gray, who has stood by him steadfast from the beginning. Steve,
Gonzalez.
That's how I pronounced it early, I think. I don't really see the distinction between Luciana's second one, Gonsalves. She's saying that we enunciate the Sal.
Yeah, Gonzalez.
Gonsalves.
Thank you, Luciana. And Jen says so many people melting down, rightfully so, over this.
Well, I mean, the difference in the sentences is the death penalty, right? So I guess the way that this could be looked at is like, and I talk like the reality is that this is a huge win in a lot of different ways. Like if you're of the
on either side, right?
For both sides, it's a huge win for Kohberger because his life is spared, and it's a huge win for the prosecution because they don't have to go through the risk of trial. They save all the money for the trial and the appeals. They save the family having to sit through.
Although in this case, the family doesn't want it.
Well, so that's what they think.
Right.
You know I mean,
that's
it's like
what they feel now. We'll have to see if they.
That's what I was saying yesterday. I don't know if you were on when I was talking about that.
No, you were, but let's hear him out. Let's hear what else he has to say.
About the victims and don't care about justice. No. Just one person making a decision, and it doesn't reflect what we were asking for.
Steve, did anybody ever call you from the prosecutor's office to just personally discuss this with you? Did anybody offer to meet with you in person to go over this potential plan?
We have meetings all the time particularly a lot of times on Friday. No. We had this regular meeting that we have to try basically do an update of what's going on, where things are at, because Idaho is actually an amazing state where it really does care about people. We just get one or two, people who just don't care about the victims and don't care about justice. And it's easy to take the weight out. It's easy to make an excuse and say, I'm doing this for the victims, even though I've never interviewed the victims. I've never really talked to them to find out what their true feelings are. So here we are. We're stuck and we can't get out of it. I asked your audience if anybody knows Judge Hippler, reach out to him and ask him to put his foot down and not accept this offer. It doesn't reflect anything in Idaho. This is not justice. We had an outsider come to our community, kill our kids in their sleep while they're getting a college education, doing everything that they should do, and we don't have the courage to hold him accountable. No plea deal. Let's go for this guy. 100%. Let's do it. And that's how this family stands.
Steve, I know that, it's no secret your daughter Kaylee was so close with Maddie Mogan, best of friends. And I know that you got to know the Mogan family as well. Have you spoken with the Mogan family, and do you know what their reaction is to this plea decision?
We actually just had a meeting with the prosecution and just tore into it and made it clear that we were not in support of this, but we also invited other families into that, and I'll let them speak on their own that were part of that meeting, but we are in no way alone on this. Multiple families believe the same as we do, but I want to honor their abilities to speak independently and as their child. So I don't want to cross that line, but all I will say is there was no majority for this decision at all. And if they're not working for us, they're working against us, guys. I mean, we have to wake up to this. I mean, we have to hold people accountable. Coeur d'Alene just had a shooting where we attacked our firemen. People need to stand up to these monsters and stop freaking bowing down to them and giving them childcare. I mean, prison is nothing but adult childcare. You get free vision, you get free dental, you get free meals, you get AC, room and board, cable TV, internet access. It's ridiculous what we give our prisoners. Better than what we treat our vets. Our vets coming back from war with missing limbs. This is unacceptable.
This father shows a lot of strength, even in a time where he's outraged, angry, hurt, devastated, and he communicates his feelings, and I feel for him so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, the problem with it is the lack of like any kind of substantive conversations between the state and the families. And I think if they were like, if they would have sat down with the families and said, look, here's the reality of the situation. I mean, I was looking at it. Since 1864, Idaho has carried out 29 executions total. They got rid of it in Idaho, and then it was reinstated in 1973. In 1994, they executed a guy named Keith Wells by lethal injection. It was the state's first execution in 36 years. And then it looks like in 2011, Paul Rhodes is executed by lethal injection in Idaho. This had been the first execution in 17 years. So, and I don't think that there has been one since. I mean, if you sit down with the families and start explaining how this process works, like Bryan Kohberger would have been sitting on death row for a long, long time. And there's no guarantee that they're not getting rid of the death penalty again. I mean, they've done it once. I mean, that's how it goes. I mean, Illinois had the death penalty for years. Gacy was executed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people pushing for criminal justice reform. There's a lot of, highlighting of wrongful convictions. So that can prompt, because
at the end of this day, this boils down to one thing. Steve, in particular, thinks that this guy deserves to die. Like, that's what his punishment should be. Right. And he's very clear. So, this for him, even though it is justice, a life without the possibility of parole is absolutely justice, but it's not the justice.
She's going to ask him that, so he's going to get into it. But going back to what you were just pointing out, I was starting to say that with the highlighting of wrongful convictions, those types of things can prompt a change in a state's death penalty laws, and whether they keep it around. So all those are are good points. All right. So he is asked directly all the things we're talking about, and let's see how he responds.
Shannon Gray, I'm going to ask you to step in as well. Judge Hippler, Steve just mentioned Judge Hippler in this case. I have to ask you as a matter of law, would Judge Hippler have been fully integrated into this deal plan? Meaning, this is not a surprise to Judge Hippler. Is he going to have to weigh this and then rule from the bench as to whether he'll accept it or not? Or is it a fait accompli by the time they get this far down the road that the judge will accept it?
Well, I think a few weeks ago, Judge Hippler, talked about had there been an offer at all on this case. I think he mentioned it in the courtroom, and maybe that sparked something with the defense and the prosecution. I'm not sure. That being said, with a plea like this, it's with the life sentences and it's agreed upon by the state and the defense. There's small modifications sometimes that they can make to the sentencing regarding, restitution, some other things like that. But if the state presents sufficient facts to the judge for a plea of guilty to the counts, normally judges will accept that, and they'll let the defense know if they're not going to accept that ahead of time. So I would suspect that the plea will go through on Wednesday, and then they'll set over sentencing for a few weeks, and so the victims can be present to read victims' impact statements, etc. So
Steve, I covered a case where the defendant was so overwhelmingly guilty according to the evidence, and it was a death penalty case in Arizona, and that jury voted guilty, and they did not vote for death penalty. So that defendant, Jodi Arias, sits in a prison in Arizona as we speak, and she had multiple access to appeals. I wonder if there's any solace at all in knowing that this can't happen to him at this point. There can be no appeal. There can be not one squeak from Bryan Kohberger after he accepts that sentence at the end of this month. Unlike what happened in Arizona, where there is always a chance the jury does not choose death. Is there any solace in the fact that you will at least have him silenced and there will be no appeals?
Absolutely zero. None.
There you go.
Could be no farther than how we believe. I want my community support. I want that jury to make the decision, not Thompson, not some old man who's 70 freaking years old deciding how my daughter's life weighs in a courtroom. That is not justice. That is not justice at all. I'll take my juries, I'll take my peers all day long. I'm sick of one man deciding or one woman deciding what a life's worth. So that's how I stand on that.
I fully understand how you feel. And none of us can understand what you're going through. None of us is walking in your shoes. And I'm just glad to give you this platform to be able to say these things publicly. And I'm also glad that you got the support of Shannon Gray, who's just been a rock for you. Thank you to the both of you. Steve, please give Christy and your kids.
So, I mean, he's pretty clear. I mean, wait, you're muted, babe.
Real quick, if you're coming late, that is Kaylee's father, the guy on the left that was doing the talking, if you're not sure who that was.
Right. So, I mean, he makes pretty clear all of the reasons that deal with like the victim side of things and closure and, no appeals. Those are not bringing him any sense of relief. And Tracy just sent us
Apparently Nicole sent you a tweet as well.
All right. So it's like two different tweets, but I wanted to play it from actual long crime, but I'll play it from Angeline Levy's. I mean, she's streaming it from somewhere from long crime, but it's all right. Hold on.
Let me see.
I got it up. It's fine. All right. Share. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm looking for. So
All right.
Steve was going to be. He said he was going to be outside
Yep,
protesting.
we've got it.
Okay.
I mean, it was good enough for mine.
Do you have any message for Kohberger's family?
Yeah, what do you want?
We know we flew out here. We know. We have your flight records.
How are you preparing to see him today?
I'm not gonna see him.
When you say you know the flight records, what do you mean, Steve?
I know when his parents booked their flight. When his father did.
What does that mean?
You'll find out.
Would you like to say something to them?
No, I don't care about it.
The rest of your family went inside. Is it important for them to be in there today?
Yeah, for sure.
Where are you going? Are you not able to
I'm
get
just
it?
getting out of this suit.
You're not staying in?
No, I'm not going to.
Do you have it boosted, Bay?
Steve,
Can't.
I mean, it was good enough for mine.
I can't because no one. I don't have the actual link. I have somebody's tweet. So
Oh, that's a tweet.
right. I couldn't find it on Long Crime. There's a second one. Is it not worth me playing because you guys couldn't hear it?
I don't know. I mean, I could hear Anjanette. She was one of the ones asking questions, so I'm surprised it's not on Law and Crime somewhere.
There's a second one. Should I play it?
Yeah. I mean, we got time to kill. Let's. Like, that's a strange thing to say about Kohberger's family coming in, though. Like, he knows their flight records. Like, I don't know. Like, what is he saying? What do you think he's saying there? I don't know.
That he doesn't think they're going to be here, or
No, from what I saw, they're going to be there.
I don't know. Maybe he's saying that they knew before he knew because they made plans before he did. I'm not sure.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, this
Hey,
is
that's exactly what he's saying.
speculation time. I don't know. All right, here's the second part
That's
of
pretty
it.
good speculation, though. Yeah, that's what Brooklyn's saying too. Brooklyn's saying you're right. That's what it is.
All right, so this is as loud as I can do it.
I mean, it was good enough for mine.
Oh, it seems like the same.
Does.
Yeah, what do you want?
We know when you flew out here.
Oh, it's the
We
same.
know. We have your flight records.
How are you preparing to see him today?
I'm not gonna see him.
when you say you know,
I'm not going to see him. He's not here. That's what he just said. So I don't know.
Well, he just said we knew when you flew out here, though. I don't
Right,
know.
but then he also said we're not going to see him. He's not here. So I don't know. This says it's part 2, but it's the same. So
Let me check the Idaho Statesman, see if they've got anything. Heck? Did my keyboard die again? What the hell?
yeah, I don't know. It says it's part 2, but it's the same. Let me see. Maybe I played the wrong first one. No, they're both the same. She's got it says that her post is Steve Gonzalez is furious, but it's the same two videos. Brooklyn says the same thing. He's saying that Bryan Kohberger's parents knew first. But hey, I'm not anything that man feels right now.
Yeah.
Within his rights to feel.
100%.
We're just trying to parse out what what's being said, because it also said he wasn't going in there, didn't he?
Well, I saw something on Twitter that he was going to be outside protesting. Now, does that mean that he's going to stay out there? I think that would be really hard to do.
Well, but then he's not going to speak. Does he not know he's got the right to speak?
I'm assuming that he does. I mean, the protest would be that he's not even going in there.
I know, but
he's rejecting it.
Go say. They probably told him you can speak, but that's not going to change the judge's mind, type of thing. Maybe.
I mean, how See, this is why he needed to talk to the prosecutors, because even if he's reading them the riot act and being like, fuck you, I can't believe you did this. Like they're like, Hitler can't do anything. I don't, in what world can he reject the plea? Because there is no other option. It's death penalty or life without the possibility. He's getting the max sentence.
Right. If neither side is trying to go to trial, I've never seen a judge say,
Force somebody to, how could he force a defendant to trial? if
no,
they're
he's
willing
got
to
the
do
right
that?
to plead guilty.
Right. Yeah, I think he'll end up going in too. I don't think he'll be able to help himself. Oh, the victim impact is not happening today.
Yeah, but there's the victim's rights statute says he has the right to be heard at a plea hearing. Specifically, that's different than a victim's impact statement. That's
Yeah.
So Mary Holt asks, why add special prosecutor Josh Hurwitz if making a plea deal? This is so upsetting to the families. This breaks my heart. Well, I'm not sure when they added him. Was that, but seems like this was a very recent discussion. See if you can pull up any other statements by victims, families, the other roommates while I'm going through.
Yeah,
this.
I'm digging around in Idaho Statesman to see if I
All
can
right. So
find
Cami Q, thank you for your generosity in gifting 10 Defense Diary memberships. Emily says maybe Michael wants to come on to chat. Yeah, Michael, if you're out there. Jen, member for 12 months. Thanks for your generosity. Love you too. Lily B, new member. What's Lily B get, babe?
Aw, family hug. Welcome.
Melissa
Oh,
Garcia.
hey, and if you're new out there, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'm terrible about doing that during the lives.
I can't understand being upset. I can understand being upset, but the death penalty isn't always certain. Correct. Look at the Cruz case. 17 children and he's serving life. Those parents are pissed. Yeah. I mean, it's just like I said yesterday, I would have just my opinion would have been from an outsider in that this would have been something that the families felt a sense of relief from, but it's clearly not the case.
It's so weird. The East Idaho News, like, it's got nothing on Kohberger. It's so weird. Like, I don't see one story.
Still talking about Lori Vallow.
Yeah. Oh wait, here we go. Let me see. Let me see what.
Sorry,
I got
guys.
here.
I'm readjusting on my bouncy yoga chair ball thing. Agreed, Melissa. Lily B says it's a win, but it's impossible to satisfy everyone. Yeah, and it's just a shame though. It would be obviously a much better conclusion if the families felt like it was justice, and the fact that at least some of the families are so against it, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Bailey Barber says, Bob sent you a video on X. Oh, thank you, Bailey Barber. I don't know if that's the
Thanks,
same.
Bailey.
If that's the same
Is
one
it the same one, Bailey, that we just watched?
That Tracy sent.
I'll check.
Abby and Rosie's mom became a YouTube member. What do you say to that, babe? Babe.
Aw, family hug. Welcome, Abby and Rosie's mom.
And for
our
those
Canadian friend
that don't know, the all family hugs is Bob's thing. I fought it for a while. The people love it. So
she caved.
I leave it to him to give the hugs. Shannon loves Connecticut says, or court, I'll just say Shannon loves CT. Bob, didn't you once say that some FAMs who saw the death penalty play out report they still didn't feel a sense of justice they thought it would?
Yes,
that's definitely true as well.
Yeah,
I mean
there is no magic cure. Nothing's ever bringing your loved one back ever, and it's like I think that there's that. And I mean, obviously, that's a human to human valuation in terms of how it's going to impact them, whether it's going to give them closure of some kind, if that's going to make them feel that justice has been served. But I mean, nothing brings back your loved one. Nothing is ever going to make any of these families whole again. There doesn't exist a thing in the world that can do that. That's why I was saying, I mean, this for the Gonzalez family, at least for Steve, who seems to be the
Gonzalez.
most Gonzalez, not Shaw, Salvez.
Gonzalez.
I'm just going to call him Steve because I'm going to continually butcher that because he spells it with a C. It's very
Right. The C is it the S sounding C?
Salvez,
Gonzalez.
yeah. But he's clearly of the mind. He's an eye for an eye guy. And it's not my place to say somebody shouldn't be an eye for an eye guy. I mean, I happen to be anti-death penalty. I think that the worst punishment known to man, as I've said over and over and over, is sitting in a box your entire life. I just think I don't give a shit if he gets to eat a meal and watch a TV. He never gets to do anything that any of us take for granted on a daily basis. Never gets to do anything that any of us do on a daily basis ever again. To me, that is, I'd rather be dead. I'd rather be dead than do that.
Nikki says, flight to Idaho when Brian's dad drove him to PA. I'm not sure that we're getting the full context of what was being said there, but we're speculating.
So somebody's saying that Maddie's father said that the plea deal gave him relief.
So I was asking, can you look for other interviews with victims' families? Well, I
can pull this. It's written.
No, okay.
I'm not seeing any videos. Don't hate on the print.
I'm not, but we're on a video thing, so
I know, I understand, but we're killing time. So this is what we just saw about the Gonzalez family. The family of Ethan Chapin, one of the three triplets who attended the university together, supports the deal. Their spokesperson, Christina Tevez, said. Attorney Leander James, who represents Maddie Mogen's mother and stepfather, declined to give their views, but said that he would deliver a statement on their behalf after Wednesday's hearing. Mogen's father, Ben Mogen, told CBS News that he was relieved by the agreement. So he said, we can actually put this behind us and not have these future dates and future things that we don't want to have to be at, and that we shouldn't have to be at. That have to do with this terrible person. He said, we get to just think about the rest of our lives and have to try to figure out how to do it without Maddie and the rest of the kids. So that's what I was saying yesterday. Kind of like, that's the upside to this. I think, and obviously from a very different perspective, but I don't know. I don't know. Babe, I feel like you would want to know all the details. And I feel
so
like
impossible
I wouldn't. Right, you can't put yourself in those shoes.
Impossible. So Sleuthy sent me some information also about the Chaplin family. Chapin. Sorry, it's awful.
That's terrible. I mean,
terrible.
Gonzalez.
It's like when I'm reading, it's like, okay, Chapin. So that the Chapin support the plea agreement. Stacy Chaplin, the mother, sent a statement. The Chaplins will be in Boise today in support of the plea agreement.
Do you keep sticking an L in there? It's just Chapin. Oh, okay.
By contrast, Madison.
Where's Nate live? Where's Nate Eaton? I'm like on his page. Is he?
All right, well, let me continue because Tracy also sent me a link. So all right. By contrast, Madison Mogen's family father is choosing acceptance. He told the Idaho Statesman, saying the plea agreement would let his family avoid trial and allow its wounds to keep healing. If Kohberger were given a death sentence, he wouldn't have to spend decades thinking about how terrible he made the world, Mogen added. we can actually put this behind us and not have these future dates and future things that we don't want to have to be at, that we shouldn't have to be at, that have to do with this terrible person. We get to just think about the rest of our lives and have to try to figure out how to do it without Maddie and without the rest of the kids. It's heartbreaking, but it at least some of the families are feeling a sense of relief from this. And then here,
Did you find
all right, here we go.
of how they stayed afloat.
We just decided maybe it was best to tell our story of Ethan just literally one time. He deserves it. He deserves our story of him.
This morning, as the Idaho murder suspect prepares to accept a plea deal, the family of Ethan Chapin speaking publicly together for the first time since Ethan, his girlfriend Xana Kernodle, and her roommates Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez were brutally murdered in an off-campus home at the University of Idaho.
I miss him every day. When you lose your son at 20, you know, it's different. It's a different loss. And I miss him every single day. And I always will.
Ethan, a triplet with his siblings, Hunter and Maisie, all attending the University of Idaho together. Hunter and Maisie and their parents, Jim and Stacy, now telling their story in a new Prime Video docuseries, One Night in Idaho, The College Murders, remembering their 6'4", larger-than-life brother and son.
We played every sport together. Every time we went in the car, it was together, partied together. There was never a dull moment.
The night before Ethan was killed, Maisie brought him to her sorority formal. She now cherishes the text he sent her before bed.
So he started off by texting me. I think he said, "Dog, come hang out. We all want you here." And I said, "I'm going to bed." And then he said, "Love you." And I didn't even respond to that. I think I was asleep by then.
And the "I love you" kind of stood out, though.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Hunter, who pledged Sigma Chi with Ethan, says the next morning, a friend at the fraternity woke him up saying the police were at Xana's house.
Hunter Johnson came up to me and said, I was like, "Where's Ethan and Xana?" And he's like, "They're not here anymore." So, "What do you mean they're not here anymore?" He's like, "I think they were murdered last night."
Hunter was forced to call his family with the news, his parents in disbelief.
It drives me crazy because I've always wanted to protect my family. And there's really nothing there that I could have done. You know, instantly he was taken.
A suspect, Bryan Kohberger, arrested nearly 7 weeks later, son's legacy, getting tattoos to honor him.
We all benefited from having Ethan in our lives for 20 years. It's a tremendous loss.
Now the Chapins told.
All right, so you should probably get you've got the court feed up. Bob? Is he gone? Okay. We have 5 minutes. I think that was the end of this anyway.
All right, so that's a new screen, so they're going to get ready to roll here pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, so there's a tale of two families, right?
Yeah.
Very different emotions, and neither is right or wrong. It's you feel what you feel. I can't even imagine it.
No.
It's heartbreaking.
Love this community. Thanks, Jenny. Janet Studdard Says you guys do a great job covering these cases. Member for 20 months. Thank
Aw,
you, and
family
thank
hug.
you, Jenny. Little Miss
Janet.
Red Velvet, Janet. Sorry. Well, Janet and Jenny
Oh,
for their generosity and being members.
oh, thank you.
And Little Miss Velvet for
Oh,
giving
little
5
miss.
defense.
Aw, family hugs.
That's sweet.
She loves.
Una, member for 11 months. Love from South Africa.
Aw,
Aw,
family hug all the
thanks
way
for
down to
being
South
here.
Africa. Thanks, Una.
Joe Schmo, member for 14 months. 14 months, long enough to birth a baby giraffe.
Wow. Is that the gestation period of a giraffe? They really cook those little giraffe babies, huh? Oh, no. Rosie's overruled. Love you all. Broken AC here, too. It's
Sorry to hear.
horrible. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Sunny Days 55. Have you read the last post on the Gonzalez family page? Pretty harsh.
I have not. I'm not on Facebook really anymore.
Is that a Facebook thing?
Yeah, I'm
A
sure.
family
it is.
page? Let's see if
I'm
I
sure
can
it is.
pull it up. Read it while we wait here. Gonzalez family. Is that a I can't.
3-minute countdown.
Oh, here. Is this it? No, that's News Nation. I don't know how to find. Oh, I see why I'm in.
Was
Oh.
Michael in here? I didn't see. Was Alcazar in here? I didn't see it. Hey, Michael, if you're here.
Okay, so
I would definitely
says-
have Michael come on.
It said it was Osbrook.
No, Alcazar was here too. I know Michael's. I know Osbrook's here.
Okay, so they said right here, right now, we dig our heels into the earth and carve a line deep in the dirt. This ain't justice. No judge presided. No jury weighed the truth. Thompson robbed us of our day in court. No negotiations, no jury of our peers, not even the pretense of cooperation and fairness. Cowardly men, gutless men, they scatter like roaches when the battle closes in. And
Wow.
Thompson, he's retiring on this deal, his shadow slithering toward the exit, leaving only the stench of his betrayal.
Wow.
No spine, no shred of honor. He didn't have the basic decency, the plain human courage to face the families, to meet our eyes and ask, how do we make an offer that works? Instead, Thompson cut his deal with the devil. His negotiations didn't require anything other than a simple guilty plea, allowing in the leeway to blame the same people you are paid to protect. You betrayed us, Thompson. Your deal fails to shield the innocent. You could have stood tall and made damn sure the blame stayed where it belongs, not on us, not on the broken survivors still carrying the weight of your repeated failures. This is our courtroom now. This moment, this stand, our voices rise to every American who will listen. We would have provided protection for the roommates, the best friends, the fallen vet, God rest his soul, and every soul affected in our shattered community. We would have carved our terms like sacred commandments, etched deep into the unyielding granite, a testament to those we've lost and the justice they're owed. First, truth. Spill it. BK, every sickening detail only the killer could know, the kind that twists your guts to hear but turns even a simpleton pro-burger against you. Second, you bear the guilt, all of it alone. You don't get to smear the survivors, the ones still waking to nightmares born of your reckless choices. Third, no cashing in on our grief, no books, no private interviews with your ex-professor. No one is allowed to study you. because you're not special. You don't get to spit on our kids' graves by making this all about you. Only Hitler can step into this void, mend the wreckage Thompson left in Leyta's so-called justice system. This is what murdered victims' families' negotiation looks like. It's ugly. It's raw. It's wild. It's anything but easy. Yet you, Mr. Thompson, didn't even bother to negotiate with us. So this is all we have left. So there's no more time for us to wait for you to make a stand. So we stand in your place. Kaylee Jade Gonzalez, we love you, baby. You deserved better than this justice system. Your soul is not Thompson's bargaining chip. We do not accept his plea deal signed in your name. We're screaming for you as loud as we can. Kaylee Jade is better than this. This is our last shot. Judge Hitler, you are our only hope that our child's murderer isn't granted control over his destiny in our child's names. You take control of this deal and make it right because now you own it. Wow. I've got chills.
It's incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful. And he fleshes out some of the things. It's not all just about the death penalty. He's got a lot of thoughts about a lot of things, and all of it's valid. All of it's valid.
Yep. Thanks, Sunny Days.
Thank you so much.
Barbara Ellison says, I lost a 20-year-old son, so I know the turmoil this father suffers, but he demonstrates why justice needs to be blind to the family's emotions. It's just, it does have to be, but we can see how that, how that plays out. Blind, but not insensitive. That I guess is the Luciana says pronunciation is perfect, but you can say it with a Z. I get it much easier. Gonzalez. I got it.
It's a tough one.
Shaboogs says, I'm with Steve. Kohbergers are turning Bryan Kohberger into a famous, wrongly convicted man because state did a horrible job. Public needs to know Bryan Kohberger is a monster. I hear you, Shaboogs, and I'm hoping, and that's why Bob was saying earlier that we are anticipating / hoping that this plea, the factual basis for this plea is going to be a lot more detailed. And maybe they've heard, some of the public and the victims' concerns. And I don't know, maybe they go back and they make him give some details that they just shared with the family, or, who knows? But hopefully there'll be enough facts out there and enough said. Only the crazies still think, if there are people who still think he's innocent, there's nothing you can do for people like that. There's nothing you can do because that's absurd. Malsey 66 became a member, babe. What do you say?
Oh, family hug.
Thank you for your generosity. And thank you, Barbara Ellison. Petite Betty, member for 5 months. Thanks for your generosity. Sending all of my love to the victims' families. We all are. We all are. Shannon says, I feel for Steve, but I don't think he knows what justice looks like. Trial's no guarantee of a conviction or the death penalty. Steve isn't the only grieving family, just the loudest. Plus trial equals crime scene, autopsy pics, very traumatic for the families.
And the appellate process. You just can't forget about that.
All of it.
Because you think you don't know about what's going on in the trial phase. Wait until you get to the appellate phase, when you're just hearing through the grapevine that the defendant has filed an appeal. You're not getting any phone calls from anybody from the state saying, hey, do you want us to walk you through that? It just doesn't work like that.
Right. And I can only imagine that with each appeal, it's like another
Yeah.
slice of raw
Yeah, it
everything.
reopens everything completely gaping. It's I don't know.
Cody says traveling and watching Defense Diary on vacay. Love this channel. Thanks.
Love you, Cody.
And you're
Thanks.
here. Remy, thanks for your generosity. Gifted 5 memberships. KLB has been a member for 2 months. Family hug. That's all I can muster in this.
Yeah, it's
Everybody
tough.
needs a hug about that right now. And Jen, we love when you guys use the supers to help us. Reminds everyone to hit the like and subscribe. It's free. Oh boy. So court will resume shortly.
Oh, so I wanted to give an update. Because I reached out to Dave Nutty. He's like, we will not be ending. This is quote from Dave. He's like, we will not be ending this tour without including you. He's like, I'm very likely to take a couple of weeks off now, though. So we're gonna get him.
He's entitled. He's entitled.
He's that's exactly what. So I said, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you. You both deserve some serious R&R. So Unetti and Alessi, you're definitely coming on with us, and we're having Aiden on Monday. I think we have to. I think we've got to lock it down a hundo, but that's the day we're aiming to have Aiden.
So everyone knows, I pulled up just to be sure, like Law and Crime, and they have the same.
Yeah, I've been doing the same.
It says court will resume shortly.
Yep, same screen. So I mean, they're just showing it from Idaho's feed.
So again, I'm gonna well, I was gonna read the victims' rights, but I closed it down, I guess. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying, Robin. Anyone who thinks a plea is not justice is not aware of the years of hearings that go along with a DP conviction. The post-conviction process is a nightmare. Court never ends. Peace never happens. That's exactly what I've been saying. I mean, that's the other side of it, but again, if somebody would have sat down with the families and really got into the detail of that, of what this thing looks like, it's it was misplayed. No matter which way you cut it, even though that I feel that the families on its face are getting justice because he's doing life without the possibility, provided that he pleads today. I mean, there's still that. Dude. I remember that weird shit he did with his, he didn't plead guilty or not guilty. Initially, there was all that speculation on what they were trying to accomplish there.
Right.
I mean,
all right, so I'm going to read the Victims' Rights Statute one more time, or the Constitution. It's in the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Declaration of Rights, Section 22, Rights of Crime Victims. A crime victim is defined by statute, which would include the families and the all of the members, people that the students that lived in the house, to be treated with fairness, respect, dignity, and privacy throughout the criminal justice process, to timely disposition of the case, to prior notification of trial court, appellate, and parole proceedings, and upon request, to information about the sentence, incarceration, and release of the defendant, to be present at all criminal proceedings, to communicate with the prosecution. Now, this is 6. This is the one that matters for right here, right now. To be heard. That's not just to be present. To be heard upon request at all criminal justice proceedings considering a plea of guilty, sentencing, incarceration, or release the defendants unless manifest injustice would result. And the other ones, don't really matter. I mean, they matter, but they're not applicable right here for the right here and now. It goes on to state, though, Nothing in this section shall be construed to authorize a court to dismiss a case, to set aside or void a finding of guilt or an acceptance of a guilty plea, or to obtain appellate, habeas corpus, or other relief from any criminal judgment for a violation of the provisions of this section. So that's different than what happened in New York. Nor be construed as creating a cause of action for money damages, costs, or attorney's fees against the state. That doesn't matter either. Nor be construed as limiting any rights to the victims previously conferred by statute. So they've got the rights.
Noodle's mama asked, why can't each victim have their own charge and have their own trial? It's 4 different kids, 4 different families.
This was all at one time. This is the type of thing that has to be tried together. It's not 4 separate offenses.
Right.
It's all
Like,
part
because
of
that's
the
what we're
same-
talking about. Like when you think about like Hewerman, they are trying to do exactly what you're asking about, Noodle's mama, wherein they're trying to sever the charges and they try each case separately. And in that case, because there was gaps in time, sometimes years in between when some of the victims were killed, I mean, that's going to be, I don't know if they've ruled on that yet. I don't know if that came down. I think that they had the hearing. I've read the motion. I don't know if they've had that hearing yet, but in that case, it's different because of the gaps in time. Like with the Gacy case, I asked my father, I'm like, was it ever discussed in the Gacy case? Because there you had 33 victims and 17 or 18 of them had not been identified at the time of trial, maybe more. I'm so far removed from the Gacy podcast, I can't remember the number. It was a shocking amount of
It had not yet been identified at the time of trial.
Yeah, that hadn't been identified. But my dad said there was never really a discussion in that case, even though all of the homicides took place at different times.
Right. And that type of situation, which is what's happening in the Hewerman case, like you just said. They got to rely on, motive, lack of mistake. So they need all those cases kind of together to show his MO, his method, stuff like that. I forget what I was just going to say right before you started talking about Gacy. Oh, I remember. So it's 11:14 there.
Yeah.
You have to bet that the judge didn't have other things on his calendar at 11. I mean, I could be wrong.
I'm checking both. Like, here we go.
Let me see it.
Hit the. It's boosted.
Boosted. No captions. All right, keep those off.
I'm trying. I don't know who's. Stop
It's
it.
hiding.
All right, this is CR 0124316665. Defendant is present in custody with counsel, Ms. Thompson, Ms. Jennings, and Ms. Taylor, Ms. Massoff, and Ms. Barlow. The state's present with Mr. Thompson, Mr. Horowitz, Ms. Jennings, and Mr. Nye is here as well. Am I miss anybody? I'm sorry.
Ms. Allen is here as well.
Ms.
Your
Allen
Honor.
is here as well. Very well, thank you. All right, we are here today to entertain a change of plea. Before I start, I want to address some issues of concern and otherwise First, I appreciate everybody in attendance today being on their best behavior. Please, no outbursts or demonstrations. Any such conduct will result in immediate removal and may result in an inability to attend further court proceedings in this case. I want to point out that there have been calls by some for the public to contact me and my office in an attempt to influence my decision-making in this case. This has been extraordinarily disruptive for court staff and the ability for them to get work done, not only in this case, but in other cases where defendants are entitled to have their cases processed, and frankly, as important, if not more so, for victims to have their cases processed in those cases. It's also highly inappropriate. A court is not supposed to, and this court will never, take into account public sentiment in making an opinion regarding its judicial decisions in cases. Courts should, and I always will, make decisions based on where the facts and the law lead me. Period. I have not read any of the numerous messages nor listened to any of the numerous voicemails that have been sent to me and my staff. Those have all been forwarded to security and, where appropriate, to law enforcement. I ask that you not continue to mount such campaigns or to send me information like this, because again, it is not appropriate and frankly not something I would take into account when deciding a matter in a case like this. I also want people to understand some very basic concepts about the ideas of separation of powers, what the court's duties are, and what the duties and the rights of the executive, or in this case, the prosecuting attorney, is. The executive, the elected prosecutor, is the sole authority in deciding what charges to pursue, including whether, as well as what penalties to ask for, and what penalties to pursue, including the death penalty. This court cannot require the prosecutor to seek the death penalty, nor would it be appropriate for this court to attempt to do that. This court, in considering a plea agreement, if it were to reject this plea agreement, cannot force the state to seek the death penalty. My role and power in considering a plea agreement is extremely limited. My role is to ensure that the defendant's plea is given freely, voluntarily, and intelligently. If those things are met, I can only reject a plea, such as the one in this case, where I'm not being asked to agree to the sentence in advance. I can only reject it, for example, if the defendant does not meet or admit to all of the elements of the crime.
That's what we said.
That is, I can ensure what is called a factual basis to the plea. Finally, I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families, the families of the defendant, for the short notice for today's hearing, and I'm sure what must have been the hurried efforts to get here. I, like most everyone else, learned of this plea agreement Monday afternoon and had no inkling of it beforehand. Prior to that time, I was under the belief that this case was proceeding to trial, as had been indicated, and my staff and I were busy continuing to work on preparations to have potentially 10,000 citizens of Ada County come to jury duty starting in mid-July, with the questionnaire process in mid-July. It was, once I learned of the defendant's decision to change his plea in this case, it was important that I take the plea as soon as possible because of the extraordinary administrative efforts that were otherwise attendant to the process of this, getting this trial potentially underway on time, and including the significant process of bringing, again, potentially up to 10,000 jurors to come in and fill out juror questionnaires prior to the beginning of the voir dire process. And so it was important that we, if we're going to go down this road, do so expeditiously so that we can avoid those costs and expenses associated with that. Otherwise, if it was not going to result in a plea, or if for some reason the plea were to fall through today, that we could continue diligently towards trial at the time specified. And so that obviously required that we act quickly. And so some folks may have not had the amount of time that we would otherwise allow for them to travel here. And so, again, I apologize for that. I want to make people aware that during the hearing, if you are to leave the courtroom for any reason, you will not be readmitted during the hearing. Also, when we finish the hearing this morning, I ask that the public and media wait in their seats until the victims' families and the defendants' families and others are escorted out of the courtroom before you start to leave. Finally, I want to acknowledge the trial court administrator and her staff, the Ada County Sheriff, and the Ada County 4th District Marshal Service for the huge lift that they've accomplished in preparing for and orchestrating this hearing today, as well as to all the security attendant today that you see, and some of whom you, many of whom you don't see, with less than 48 hours notice. And so I appreciate the hard work that they've been doing. Frankly, some of them while they were on some vacation prior to the trial starting and had to call that short. And so I appreciate very much their professionalism and dedication. All right. That said, let's move to the business of today. I understand the state and the defense have reached a plea agreement in this case. For the record, I have a written plea agreement which indicates in sum, the defendant will plead guilty to all 5 counts in the indictment: burglary, felony, and first-degree murder, 4 counts. The state and the defendant stipulate, that is, that the defense is not free to argue for a lesser sentence at sentencing, to the following. The defendant on the burglary charge will be sentenced to 10 years fixed, and that the defendant on counts 2 through 5, the 4 counts of first-degree homicide, on each count would receive a fixed life sentence, all 5 of those counts to run consecutive to one another. Defendant, as part of the plea agreement, waives his right to appeal, as well as his right to appeal the sentence and his right to seek leniency or reconsideration of the sentence under Idaho Criminal Rule 35. This is not a Rule 11 agreement, meaning the court is not bound by the plea agreement and could impose a different lawful sentence at sentencing. The stipulated agreement between the parties is the maximum on each count. So theoretically, the only thing the court could do would be a lesser sentence at sentencing. But the defendant is not free to ask the court to do so under the plea agreement. Are there any other material terms of the plea agreement that the parties would like to make? Obviously, the plea agreement, the written plea agreement will speak for itself and be part of the court record.
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, very well. All right. Ms. Taylor, have you had sufficient time to discuss this case and all of its ramifications with your client?
I have, Your Honor.
Have you discussed fully with him his rights, defenses, and possible consequences to him of the guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been able to do all the discovery you feel necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
And have you informed your client of the importance of providing the court truthful and accurate answers in taking this plea today?
I have.
Have you apprised your client of any and all offers and counter offers and answered his questions about those?
Yes,
Do you consent to the entry of the plea today?
I do.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, I need to ask you some questions this afternoon, or I guess it's this morning still. I do this to ensure that so that I am assured that you understand the nature of the charges to which I understand you're going to plead guilty, as well as the possible consequences to you of your guilty pleas. I want to make sure your plea is given voluntarily, and I want to make sure that you actually committed the crimes to which you're pleading guilty, because I don't want you to plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. If you attempt to plead guilty today, but for some reason I don't accept your plea, then it is possible that your statements today could be used against you later at trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. And now, while you're standing, actually, why don't you take the oath from the clerk?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter not being before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, and Mr. Kohberger, just to make it easier, you don't need to stand when you speak to me. I appreciate the sign of respect, but for convenience, you can remain seated, all right? Before I start asking you questions today, have you consumed substantive questions? Let me ask you, have you consumed any alcohol, drug, or other intoxicating substance that would impair your ability to understand or exercise reasonable judgment?
No.
You feel like you are thinking clearly today?
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the possible penalties are for each of the crimes to which I understand you're going to offer a guilty plea today. They include, on count one, the burglary, a fine of up to $50,000 and a period of incarceration of up to 10 years in the state penitentiary. You may be required to pay restitution to any victims of the crime. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first-degree murder. The consequences include a fine of up to $50,000, a period of incarceration of life imprisonment, which is a requirement of a sentence, that it be a life sentence with a mandatory minimum sentence of at least 10 years on each of those counts. In addition, you would be potentially responsible for a fine of up to $5,000 to each of the victims of your crime, to be enforced in the form of a civil judgment, to operate as additional punishment. This is in excess of any restitution or fines that the court could order. And again, you may be required to pay restitution to the victims of the crime. You would be required to provide, as to counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression, and potentially pay for analysis of those samples. You would lose any right to possess, purchase, or carry a firearm, the right to serve on jury duty, the right to hold public office, and the right to vote. Do you understand the charges and all those possible consequences?
Yes.
You've heard the plea agreement that I talked about today. Do you agree with that plea agreement?
Yes.
And do you understand the nature of the charges that you've been charged with, that I understand you're going to plead guilty today to?
Yes.
As I indicated, I'm not bound by the plea agreement, but the plea agreement is for the maximum on each count. Do you understand that I'm not bound by the plea agreement?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you that I would be lenient or easy on you if you pled guilty?
No.
Has anyone threatened you or anyone close to you to get you to plead guilty?
No.
Has anyone other than the state's agreements with respect to the plea agreement, has anyone promised you anything in exchange for your plea agreement?
No.
Has anyone told you to be untruthful in answering my questions today?
No.
Has anyone offered you a reward of any kind other than the plea agreement in order to get you to plead guilty today?
No.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And counsel, obviously, there have been a number of motions filed to suppress evidence in this case. Other than those filed, are there any other motions that you felt were available with respect to Rule 12?
No, Your Honor.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
Have you had enough time to decide whether or not to plead guilty?
Yes.
Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Given your choices, do you believe it's in your best interest to plead guilty?
Yes.
Have you discussed fully the matter of pleading guilty with your attorney, and are you satisfied with the advice you've received?
Yes.
Has your attorney advised you to your satisfaction about what your rights are, what your defenses may be, and what the possible consequences to you of your guilty plea are?
Yes.
Has your attorney done everything you've asked them to do?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation of you?
Yes.
I have received a written guilty plea advisory questionnaire that is purported to be filled out by you. Did you fill that document out?
Yes.
Did you understand the questions that you answered in this document?
Yes.
And are the answers that are outlined in this document your answers?
Yes.
Are those answers truthful?
Yes.
Did you sign the document?
Yes.
And this document outlines many of the rights that you have in this case. Should you not plead guilty, did you understand those rights?
Yes.
They include a right to a jury trial. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to the presumption of innocence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to require the state to prove your guilt as to each element beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you understand that?
Yes.
They include a right to confront your accusers and cross-examine witnesses presented by the state, including by utilizing the subpoena power of the court to accomplish that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You understand you would have a privilege against self-incrimination and a right to remain silent, meaning you would not be compelled to testify if you did not wish to, had you not pled guilty.
Yes.
You understand you're giving up that privilege and those rights that I've just outlined by pleading guilty.
Yes.
All right, I want you to understand what the state would have had to have proven at trial had you, to the crimes that you're pleading guilty to, had you, if you didn't plead guilty. Let me find the document. Hang on a second here. All right. So as to count one burglary, the state would have to have proven that on or about November 13, 2022 in Latah County, Idaho, you unlawfully entered a residence located at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. As to count two, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. As to count three, the state would have had to have proven that on that same date in Latah County, at that same address, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. As to count four, the state would have had to have proven that on or about that same date in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing her, from which she died. And then as to count five, Also murder in the first degree that on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, Idaho, you did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing him, from which he died. Do you understand those things the state would have had to have proven?
Yes.
And do you understand that by pleading guilty, the state no longer has to prove those things because you're admitting those things are true?
Yes.
I want to also make for the record, the defendant has provided with the guilty plea advisory form a document entitled Written Factual Basis that purports to have the defendant's signature dated 1 July 2025. Did you sign that document?
Yes.
And did you agree with the written factual basis that is included there?
Yes.
Read it, Your Honor.
And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Did you, on November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
Did you on or about that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Kaylee Gonzalez, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And did you on that same date in Moscow, Idaho, kill and murder Xana Kernodle, a human being?
Yes.
And did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
And then on or about November 13th, 2022, again in Latah County, Idaho, did you kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being?
Yes.
Did you do that willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and malice aforethought?
Yes.
I would ask the state at this time to provide its recitation of its factual basis had this case gone to trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, the organization of the recitation is different than what I think the court and the public may be familiar with from the probable cause affidavit and other documents. The state's evidence, as an overview, would show that back in March of 2022, when the defendant was residing at his parents' residence or was residing back in Pennsylvania, his home state, he purchased online a K-bar knife and sheath with an Amazon gift card that he had purchased shortly prior to the purchase of the knife, sheath, and sharpener. Jumping ahead, the end of June of that year, the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington, which is right across the state line from Moscow, Idaho, for the purpose of pursuing a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. The state's evidence would indicate that beginning July 9th of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone began connecting to a cell tower that serves the area of the 1122 King Road residence in Moscow, Idaho. Now, I will acknowledge for the court and all present that there are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants. Between July 9th of 2022 and November 7th, the defendant's phone connected to that particular tower during late night, early morning hours, 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on approximately 23 times. Now, I will acknowledge also, we do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area on those times. In the interim, on August 22nd of 2022, Latah County Sheriff's Deputy Darren Duke conducted a traffic stop in the early morning hour or late evening hours, about 11 p.m. On the west side of Moscow, on the Moscow-Pullman Road. This was a traffic stop of Mr. Kohberger's car, which turned out to be a 2015 white Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates. During the course of the traffic stop, Deputy Duke was able to obtain Mr. Kohberger's name, Bryan Kohberger, his phone number, and his address, which at that point was an apartment address in Pullman. We then move to the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. The state's evidence would show that early morning hours on that day, Mr. Kohberger's phone left his Pullman residence, which is an apartment in kind of the central northwest part of Pullman. That phone was then subsequently turned off at approximately 2:54 a.m. and remained off until approximately 4:48 a.m. on Sunday, the 13th of November. The state's evidence would include at trial video surveillance of a business on the Moscow-Pullman Highway, just across the state line from Moscow. It would show a vehicle matching the description of the defendant's Hyundai Elantra entering Moscow at approximately 3:02 a.m. Compiled surveillance that the investigators put together from businesses and residents then show the defendant's car, the white Elantra, as I've described, circling the 1122 King Road area, that neighborhood, starting around 3:30 or so in the morning. Comes into the immediate area of 1122 King Road, which is actually on a dead end, and then leaves several times. And approximately 4:05 that morning, the defense car had entered that area, was leaving, stopped at the intersection of King and Queen Road, did a U-turn, and the state's evidence would show that the defendant's car came back and parked behind and above the 1122 King Road residence. The state believes that its evidence would then show that the defendant entered the residence of 1122 through the kitchen sliding door on the back side of the residence, which is the side of the residence that would face the area above where the defendant's car was parked. Defendant entered the residence, went to the third floor, and with a knife, killed Madison Mogan and Caitlin Gonzalez. The defendant, as he left that room, for whatever reason, ended up leaving, or the sheath for a K-bar knife was left on the bed next to Madison Mogan's body. And I can jump ahead. That sheath was tested by the Idaho State Police Forensic Lab, and single source male DNA was found on the snap of that sheath, as well as blood from both Kaylee and Madison and other trace evidence. But it's important to note single source male DNA was on the snap of that sheath. The state's evidence would show that Xana Knodel was still awake at this time. In fact, had taken a DoorDash order not long before this started. Her room was not on the third floor. It was on the second floor on the west side. As the defendant was either coming down the stairs or leaving, he encountered Xana, and he ended up killing her, also with a large knife. Ethan Chapin, Xana's boyfriend, was asleep in their bedroom, in her bedroom, and the defendant killed him as well with a large fixed blade knife. Each victim suffered multiple wounds. I will state for the record that there is no evidence there was any sexual component or sexual assault on any of the victims. I want to make that clear so there's no speculation. There were two other roommates in the house, and they were already asleep. During the course of this, one of those roommates awoke, looked out her door not knowing what was going on, and saw the defendant, who was dressed in black with a black balaclava on, holding some sort of container in his hand. And she saw him leave the house through the direction of the kitchen where that sliding door is that I mentioned before. At approximately 4:20 that morning, so this would have been 15 minutes or so later, the defendant's car is seen on a surveillance camera for 1112 King Road, which is immediately next door to the west of 1122, leaving the area at a high rate of speed. And if the court were to see that, or anybody in this courtroom were to see that, you can see the car almost loses control as it makes the corner, heads north, and then turns to go south on Walinta, which is one of the only ways to get out of that part of town. The evidence would show that following that, the defendant in his Elantra drove south of Moscow. We know that he drove on the back roads because there are surveillance cameras on the main highways, Highway 95, that would have picked up the defendant's car if he'd gone that route. And they did not show the defendant's car on that route during the time. So we know that he went through a variety of back roads in very rural, isolated part of Latah County. About 4:48 that morning, the defendant's phone comes back on. And the evidence will show that that phone was located south of Moscow, likely at a side road intersection with Highway 95. From there, the defendant's phone activity tracks it heading back north towards Pullman, Washington, where the defendant lived. About 5:26, starting approximately 5:26, various surveillance cameras in Pullman, Washington pick up the defendant's vehicle as he enters Pullman from the south and heads north and slightly west towards his apartment, where he arrived at approximately 5:30 in the morning. Later that morning, Sunday, the 13th of November of 2022, Mr. Kohberger's phone returned to the area of King Road. We don't know exactly what he did, but it returned to that area. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. It was there for about 10 minutes and then returned to his Pullman residence. About 9:30, the state's evidence will show, evidence taken from the defendant's phone, that he took a selfie of himself on his phone in what appears to be the bathroom of his Pullman apartment with a thumbs up. The defendant's phone then went to the Lewiston-Clarkston Valley, approximately 30 miles south of Moscow and Pullman. And the defendant is actually seen with his car at various businesses down there. This area is the confluence of the Clearwater River and the Snake River. Lewiston is Idaho's seaport. Large bodies of moving water down there. In addition to tracing the defendant's activities, as I've just outlined, on the 13th and leading up to the 13th, the state's evidence will show that following Sunday, November 13th of 2022, business records show that the defendant began searching for a K-bar knife and a K-bar knife sheath, as the state believes, to replace the one that was left at the scene of the murders. The evidence also will suggest that there were at least attempts by the defendant to delete or alter his purchase history on Amazon, where all these transactions had occurred. Later that week, the state's evidence will show that Mr. Kohberger went to what we would call DMV, motor vehicle licensing here in Idaho, in Pullman, to change his car registration from Pennsylvania to Washington. That's of note because Pennsylvania cars do not require a front license plate. The vehicles seen on the surveillance cameras of the defendant's car showed it didn't have a front license plate on it. At the time of the traffic stop by Deputy Duke in August, it was Pennsylvania plate, no front license plate. Mr. Kohberger proceeded to finish his semester of studies at Washington State University and returned to Pennsylvania for the holidays. Law enforcement at this point were aware of Mr. Kohberger, had been accessing information about him, were trying to find him. They located him in Pennsylvania, and they conducted what's called a trash pull. During the nighttime hours, agents of the FBI, who assisted immensely with this case, working with the sanitation department back in this neighborhood in Pennsylvania, took trash that had been set out on the street for collection, sent the contents of that from the Pennsylvania residence of the defendant's parents to the Idaho State Forensic Laboratory, where the lab experts there were able to identify DNA on a Q-tip as coming from the father of the person whose DNA was found on the knife sheath that was next to Madison Logan's body in the bed. Subsequently, an arrest warrant was issued here in Idaho, and a search warrant was issued in the state of Pennsylvania with the assistance not only of the FBI, but the Pennsylvania State Police. Mr. Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home to return to Idaho. Upon his return to Idaho, a DNA sample was taken from him, and it matched the DNA found on the knife sheath next to Maddie's body at the crime scene. I can tell the court and the public the weapon itself, the knife, has not yet been recovered. I can tell the court that the defendant's apartment in Pullman was searched, as well as his office. Spartan would be a kind characterization. There was virtually nothing there. Nothing of evidentiary value was found. And of course, we are now talking 6-8 weeks after the time of the killings. In Pennsylvania, the defendant's car was seized, and it was actually pretty much disassembled internally. And it also had been cleaned. There was a bucket of cleaner right beside it. I think we can all look to our own cars, you know, in those compartments in the doors. You can try to keep them clean where you put stuff. There's always some degree of crud in there. They were spotless. The defendant's car had been meticulously cleaned inside. And the state would present to the jury that that was part of the defendant's plan in covering up this. The defendant has studied crime. In fact, he did a detailed paper on crime scene processing when he was working on his pre-doctorate degrees, and he had that knowledge and skill. So, Your Honor, at the end, the state submits that the evidence that I've given just a quick overview of, and that to present in court would consume weeks, which the state is prepared to do and has been prepared to do, would show that as the defendant has just admitted and pleaded guilty on November 13th, 2022, excuse me, Mr. Kohberger entered the residence of 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. He did that with the intent to kill. We will not represent that he intended to commit all of the murders that he did that night, but we know that that is what resulted, and that he then killed intentionally, willfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice forethought, Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Santa Colonel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Defense, do you so stipulate?
All right, based on the state's proffer, and importantly, based upon defendant's explicit admission to committing these crimes, the court finds there is a factual basis. Therefore, with respect to count 1, burglary, felony, how do you plead, Mr. Kohberger, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 2, murder in the first degree, as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogen, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first degree murder of Xana Kernodle, pardon me, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first degree murder of Ethan Chapin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Right. The court will find that the defendant understands the nature of the charges and each offense and the possible consequences to him of his guilty plea. The court finds that there is a factual basis for the plea, and that finds the defendant believes the plea to be in his best interest. I find that the plea was given freely, voluntarily, and was intelligently made. I accept the plea. I direct that it be entered. I'll continue the matter for sentencing in this case. I think it was mentioned on the call Monday afternoon, the defense wishes to waive a pretrial investigation. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
The state also?
Yes, Your Honor, the state does not believe pre-sentence investigation is needed given the evidence that is available. We want to, though, make sure that all of the victims have the opportunity to make statements to the court at sentencing.
Absolutely. And certainly both the state and the defense may present whatever sentencing memorandum and other documents you wish me to consider. The victims will be given an opportunity to provide the statements that they wish to at sentencing. Do we need more than one full day for sentencing?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. We have numerous victims, and we have victims who share unique perspectives on this, and we want to make sure that they all have time to express their feelings to the court. But I believe that if we can start perhaps 8:30 or so in the morning, that we should be able to complete it all in one day.
Defense agree with that in terms of the time frame?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So as it happens, we have some time reserved in this case in July and August. The week of July 22nd is available. I don't know if that's too soon for the parties or the next week, the week of August 4 is available. Any preference?
Your Honor, we're prepared as soon as the court wants to schedule it.
The state, I believe, would be prepared on the 22nd. We've told the victims' families that we're looking at approximately those dates.
All right. So because of the plan to bring in so many jurors to fill out questionnaires, I had ordered that no other trials could take place in this courthouse the week of July 22nd. And so we will use that in terms of the sentencing date because of what I'm sure will be the significant interest of the media and the public and the logistics that will be required to make that happen. Without trials going, it'll be a lot easier to do that. So let's pick that week. Why don't we pick July 23rd with the idea that if for some reason we don't finish, we could continue into the 24th. We'll start at 9 in the morning. Does that give your team enough time, Sandra? 9 in the morning? All right. Any concerns with that date?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, sir.
All right. Any reason why I should not rescind the non-dissemination order at this time?
There you go. No.
You're right. I think
No.
that given the history of this case, it would be best if that remained in place through sentencing. So we have time to make sure there's the ability to completely answer questions. That would be the state's preference and recommendation.
We'd have no objection for the order to remain in place through
All right.
sentencing.
I will, at this point, the idea to keep it until sentencing, which time it would be withdrawn in order to give the parties the space and time to prepare to meet what I'm sure will be the deluge of media requests. That's at least my preliminary decision at this point. We can always revisit if it seems to be, for some reason, I should.
Yeah, the
That said,
families should be allowed to do whatever they want.
Obviously, I don't think the defendant, a bond was ever set for the defendant. Were it would be revoked. The prior order allowing him to come in civilian clothes is revoked, given his
Should've been
plea
revoked
and no
today.
longer the presumption of innocence. And in fact, now the actual conviction for the crimes. He will continue to be held at the jail pending sentencing. Is there anything else today?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
I assume that the trial date will be vacated
trial
and those
is-
4 jurors will be released.
The trial will be vacated, and I'm sure that the jury commissioner will get word to those that receive their summons that they won't be required to attend. So
Thank you.
that said, again, if you would all please wait for the parties and the victims' families and others to leave the courtroom before you do, I would appreciate it. And with that, we're adjourned. All right, please.
There it is.
All right. So I'm going to get ready. We got to head to your dad soon. There's only a couple more supers. We're at Connie Robledo.
Oh, let's see.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, so that was a typical hearing where you have a defendant plead out. There was nothing unusual about it. Everything that he got into at the forefront are things that judges have to get on the record. He has to ask Kohberger those questions, whether he freely and voluntarily entered into the plea agreement. We got the factual basis, which didn't really give us anything too new. I mean, we got a few more details. We didn't get any of the real powerful, hard to hear details beyond just the acts themselves. So we didn't really get some of the things that I know some of you out there want to know. I keep seeing people talking about motives. People with this kind of broken brain, this kind of mental illness, don't necessarily need motives. It's just they're broken. You know, you're not going to have your typical motives, revenge, money, those types of things. As far as him making admissions, I mean, he admitted to his guilt. So, you know, I'm not hearing anybody saying that he didn't do it or that this isn't what happened. He made it clear that he's the one who committed these crimes. So I don't know what else you need to hear, but there's nothing beyond that. So, and as far as motives, whether or not this guy talks at some point, who knows? Who knows? No, you should. I mean, no, he's just sick. It's not a matter of feeling sorry for him, but factually, like Casey never had a motive, and he did it at least 33 times. Dude wasn't like a normal human being. So, and motive doesn't have to be proven at all. At all, ever, in any case. Motive is not an element to any crime. So, yeah. Yep. It's chilling to hear it. It's unusual in a case like this to have a defendant stand up in court, say I did it. All right, let me make my way through so obviously the sentencing is when we'll hear the victim impact panels. That will be a devastating day. There's no question about that. Connie, I wanted the state to have to prove it, prosecutor shenanigans, and a lot of circumstantial evidence. You're gonna have to just accept the fact that Kohberger told you he did it. I don't know what else you need. Like this isn't one of those situations where like he felt like he was getting railroaded and he might as well just plead out. This ain't that. It's just not that. I mean, sometimes people are just horrible people. He's an awful human being who did awful things, ruin lives of thousands of people with those 4 homicides that he committed. The reach on that is unbelievable in terms of that kind of loss. It's way beyond just the families. It'll be felt for generations. It's how awful what he did is. So, so GV says, I can accept the plea, Mr. Kohberger, unless tell us what products you used to clean the car. I have to do some shopping after this. Me as a judge. Thanks, GV. Joe Flipperhead, my boy. 30 minutes behind playing catch up, but thank you all for hosting. Always, Joe. Thanks for hanging with us, brother. Thanks for being a wrench too. Carla, chat, there will never be a motive that would make sense to you, even if you said so. True. I mean, there is no rational reason for this. Like, I mean, I don't understand what you guys are trying to wrap your mind around. Some people just do awful shit for no reason whatsoever other than the thrill. You know, it was either the thrill for him or the concept of him being able to get away with it and the thrill and that, I don't know. I don't really care. I just know he admitted it and that he's going away forever and that we got him off the streets so that he doesn't do it again. That's what you should care about. I'll never understand like this kind of cheerleading for this guy. Like it's weird. It just is. I don't know. Like, you know, there's people that I believe with all my heart are factually innocent and are wrongfully convicted. This guy ain't that. It's just not. He's an admitted monster. Period. End of conversation. But, you know, I'm sure if there's people out there that think that for some reason he pled out and said that he had committed all these crimes for some other reason other than taking responsibility, then I'm sure you can find some other people out there that think the way that you do. I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them. Would the Innocence Project step in with a guilty plea? Never. The guy admitted to doing it. All right. All right. So sad day. Sad day. It's weird to sit there and watch that, isn't it? It's strange. So I'm relieved that, frankly, that he's off the streets. I am relieved, even though it sounds like there's a split between the families that, you know, they weren't happy with this, but he's going away forever. That's justice, y'all. It just is. I mean, there's plenty of states where the DP is not even an option. So make no mistake about it. Justice was served today. Saved the taxpayers a huge amount of money. And frankly, it saved the families a decade plus of appeals, which, you know, I mean, the reality is that you cannot understand how much it affects families when these cases just drag on and on and on and on, and you're never over it. I mean, the Syed thing, 20 plus years in on his sentence, and it was still going. You hear it from the victims' families, how much it affected them. So, all right. We love you guys so much. Please remember to share, like, subscribe to the channel. We love having you. It's hard to know. It's hard to know, but don't confuse court docs with, you know, like you're going to have to FOIA for police reports and things like that. Court docs, I don't see why they'd keep them sealed at this point. So the things that were all sealed that probably had details, maybe beyond what the prosecutor said, maybe, I don't know. We'll find out. I'm sure everybody will be digging him up. It's a lot less interesting to me now that we know for certain that he's the guy. You know, I don't need to give him any oxygen. I know that people have a morbid curiosity about this kind of stuff, but my hearts and thoughts are with the victims and their families. That's where I'm at. So, all right, y'all. We love you very, very much. Thank you for hanging with us on this day. We'll probably go live tomorrow. I want to look at that Walsh suppression hearing. So keep your eyes peeled. Make sure, again, like, share, subscribe. We love having you here. We are thankful for all the supers today. Got a couple more come in. JD, heavy hearing him say guilty, sobering for sure. Yeah, 100%. Emily, will sealed and redacted court docs be unsealed? Got to that. They will be. That I can't see any reason why they wouldn't be. Debbie King, member for a month. I missed you all and hope that your dad is good. And Little Miss, by the way, I did get the message that the 5 gifted memberships were in honor of my father. He's doing well. He's doing well. They just got him moved to rehab. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. All right, you guys are amazing. We love you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Stay cool out there. And remember, without y'all, I'm just an old man talking about a lot of cases. See you tomorrow.